Hi, welcome on my channel, Aline's Visit. In this episode, I'm glad to introduce you to the basics of French gastronomy, beginning with the bakery specialties that you may have sampled or simply heard of without knowing more of their origins. Let's talk about the French baguette. It's an emblematic symbol of the French cuisine and far more than a simple bread. The origins of the baguettes are modest. Up to the beginning of the 19th century, French people were mostly eating the pain de campagne, a country bread made of whole wheat flour. Difficult to keep fresh and mellow over several days, the country bread was becoming more and more hard to cut and to chew. So this is why people were drowning their slice of bread in the soup. Now you know the origins of the crouton. Every household was baking its own bread at the village oven. And in the city, the bakers were selling big bread supposed to last a week. The transition toward the baguette, as we know now, arrived at the end of the 19th century, following the Industrial Revolution. The population was moving toward the cities where the communal ovens were not available, so the breads were created by professional bakers using mechanical method to knead the bread using white wheat flour, thus creating a more light and elastic dough. This method gave birth to a more long and thin bread known under the name of baguette. Nowadays, who could seriously think about tasting cheese or charcuterie without French baguette? Since 2022, the baguette is part of French immaterial cultural heritage of the UNESCO's list. Now, the croissant, present in any classic French breakfast, has a disputed origin. Following the inventory of French culinary heritage, in 1549 in Paris, 40 croissant cakes were served at a banquet hosted by the Queen of France, Catherine of Medici. It may have been intended to commemorate the alliance of Francis I with the Grand Turk a few decades earlier. For more information, check my episode on Catherine of Medici. But several legends circulated about the invention of the croissant. One tradition claims that Marie Antoinette of Austria, originally from Vienna, wife of Louis XVI, was the one who officially introduced and popularized the croissant in France from 1770, hence the name Viennese pastry. More probably, Marie Antoinette brought the Kipfel, crescent-shaped pastry made in Austria convents at Easter, but with a simple non-flaky yeast dough, probably inspired by the shape of the crescent moon. However, historians of French gastronomy and cuisine noted that the current croissant recipe only became a French culinary symbol in the 20th century after Parisian bakers replaced the Kipfel brioche dough with a typical French yeast-leavened puff pastry. This dough, which is the distinctive feature of the croissant, is used in many other preparations, such as fougasse de Nîmes, pain au chocolat, and quigaman. The oldest written recipe for croissant, made with yeast-leavened puff pastry, was published by a renowned cook and culinary writer named Auguste Colombier in 1906 in his book New Culinary Encyclopedia. Another delicacy that you certainly have tasted or you are planning to taste during your next travel to France. The famous macaron arrived in France from Italy. The Italian cooks baptized their creation maccherone, subtle blend of almond powder, sugar, and egg white. And it was Catherine of Medici, her again, who totally stormed the French gastronomy by importing the macaroni and other specialties in France. Each region developed its own version of the macaron that are still made today, all bearing the name of macaron but not looking at all like the ones you are used to see in Paris bakery. May I present you the Saint-Jean-de-Luz macaron, Amiens macaron, Saint-Émilion macaron, Montmorillon macaron, Nancy macaron. Nowadays, the macarons that you may find in Paris were created during the 19th century. The pastry chefs decided to innovate by adding 2 macarons with a filling in the center. The Maison Ladurée had another innovation, adding coloring to the dough and somewhat changing a bit the texture of the macaron, making it smoother and shinier. And other brands like Pierre Hermé or Dalloyau have developed their own flavors. You should definitely try them. I hope you enjoy the simple presentation of the basic delicacy that you may try when you come to France. And don't forget, I can be your guide. You just need to reach me, and I will be pleased to present you more about the French gastronomy. Meanwhile, as usual, subscribe, and as always, see you next time.